Hello students, it is day 51. First thing, you're doing so good with capitalization. I'm not going to include it in the videos anymore. I'm going to let capitalization and sentence combining be what you do on your own. If I happen to see a day where I think the capitalization has something new or confusing that might need clarifying, I'll add it into the video. But otherwise, for now, you guys can whip through capitalization on your own. So let's move right along to punctuation. Today's punctuation is actually part of a review of last week, day 46, under phrases and clauses. They were introducing the idea of dependent clauses, which we have had in the past, but they're helping you recognize them. A clause contains a subject and a verb, but a dependent clause is not able to stand on its own and make sense. So it's called dependent because it depends on the rest of the sentence for it to make sense. All right, then you have an independent clause, which is a standalone sentence. So for punctuation today, they're telling you that you need to place a comma after a dependent clause placed at the beginning of a sentence. The example of the dependent clause here is because she owns a rental home. Right? So when because she owns a rental home occurs at the beginning of the sentence, you see there's a comma. And then the rest of the sentence, some think she is wise. And then they follow with the next rule, though, that still has to do with dependent clauses. Do not place a comma before a dependent clause placed at the end of a sentence. So we have the same dependent clause now in the second sentence, but it's at the end of the sentence. Some people think she is wise because she owns a rental home. So no comma is needed. So when you're looking at punctuation for dependent clauses, first of all, you have to be able to recognize where a dependent clause is, and then you have to figure out, is this occurring before the independent clause or after the independent clause to determine whether you're going to use a comma or not. So let's take a look at your sample sentence. When members of the Ladies' Club wrapped gifts for charity, many kind, generous shoppers thanked them and gave additional money for their cause. All right, the dependent clause in this sentence is when members of the Ladies' Club wrapped gifts for charity. So we see it's occurring at the beginning of the sentence, and so a comma is going to be needed. All right, so you'll see that I've done that. When members of the Ladies' Club wrapped gifts for charity, comma, many kind, generous shoppers, da-da-da-da-da. All right, so we've got the dependent clause taken care of. Let's take a look and see what other things you remember for punctuation. When members of the Ladies' Club, the club belongs to the ladies, so there needs to be an apostrophe to show that there is possession. All right, so it will be ladies apostrophe club. When members of the Ladies' Club wrapped gifts for charity, many kind, generous shoppers. Do you remember the rule? When you have two adjectives or more in a row, you need a comma. All right? So we have many kind, generous shoppers. Then let's take a look. What did the shoppers do? They thanked them and gave additional money for their cause. We don't need any commas there. All right? No need for commas between thanked and gave. But we do need a period at the end of the sentence. Okay, so that's what your sentence should look like, punctuated. All right, next thing we have parts of speech, adverbs. Circle the correct form. This goes back to day 38. If you look in your papers, you'll see day 38. And it talks about when there are different adverbs, when you're comparing two things or three things, when you use more, when you use most. So if this is a little dusty, go back to day 38 and you can review this. So let's take a look here. He responded more hesitantly or hesitantly-er to the second question. Well, on page 38, it told us, actually, there was a rule down at the bottom of the page that said if your word is 3 or more syllables, instead of adding to the adverb, you would use more or most. more if you're comparing two things, most if you're comparing two or more things. All right, so he's responding to the second question, so there's just two questions. Hesitantly is 4 syllables, so we know that we need to go with more because we can't use because it's just too many syllables for our mouth. So the correct answer is more hesitantly. All right, next section, prefixes, suffixes, roots. Okay, the suffix ion means either an act of process, such as production, a result or an act of a process, such as a regulation, or a state or condition, for example, dehydration. So they want you to write the meaning of these two words here, destruction and relaxation, by implementing what you've just learned about what ion means, okay? And I think you know what destruction means, as far as the root word of destruction would be to destroy, and the root word of relaxation is to relax. So using that information that I just gave you, you can write down what the meaning of those two words are, and there are many definitions that are correct. So I will just be looking to see what you came up with based on what happens when you add ion to the word destruct and to the word relax. And that brings us right to sentence combining, which is also an independent activity. So I will look forward to seeing what you come up with both of these sections, as well as what you did in capitalization today. So good luck and God bless you.